Yeah, looks like we're live. Hello, everyone. We're live with a winter update. I have Jonathan in the studio. I have Brenda and I have Guillermo. Welcome to you all. And welcome to all of you that are watching us from outside the studio, right? On a LinkedIn feed, on a YouTube feed, and also Facebook. We're broadcasting this directly on Facebook. Want to make it very practical, want to make it useful for all of you. So if you want to drop your name and where you're watching from today in the comments, whatever platform you're using to watch us live today, please do so. We're gonna give you a shout out right here, and then if you have some things to share, we could bring you on a stage. We could send you the link to that. With that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I want to start with Brenda. Brenda, why don't you share with us a little bit about the services your company provides and how you could be of help with this big event that is just developing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, for the invite. I am the marketing director for RS Andrews. We provide HVAC, plumbing, and electrical services in the greater Atlanta area. We also have an office in Bluffton, South Carolina. So we cover Hilton Head Island down toward like Savannah and Tybee Island areas from that location as well.
Okay. What specific services are you ready to provide for apartment communities in those particular markets these days?
So, of course, HVAC, has a very high demand right now. Of course, we had a very cold winter, and the last few days have been, really cold, and we've had a high demand for that. Plumbing, of course, with cold, you also have plumbing issues. Pipes freeze, pipes burst. So those are definitely two main things that we're seeing right now. But of course, we are a year-round company. I mean, we have customers. We service all avenues of real estate. So if you have a commercial building, multifamily, hospitality, your businesses, restaurants, that kind of thing. We also service residential. So we have maintenance programs. We can take care of pretty much anybody and anything. So if you have any of those needs, I know right now, a lot of people, of course, are focused on the emergency needs, the heat, the plumbing, but we also are there for you to be a partner year round.
How is everything like in the markets that you're servicing? Do you guys keep up with emergency calls? What type of emergency calls are you getting currently?
Yeah, of course. So one of the things, like everybody that's in a service like ours, we do have availability 24/7. We have office hours as well, that there are people actually sitting in offices, but you can call me on my cell phone. I'm available at any time. And, we do have a team. If you call the office, it does roll. So you would get someone to answer your call and to take care of you. With, the storms, the heat is the biggest thing right now I'm seeing. And of course, with the temperatures and a lot of markets being incredibly low, that is when, a lot of times the pipes will freeze and burst. And then you'll need that emergency service for that as well.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here with us in the studio today. Please feel free to stay for as long as you want to in a studio. I know that besides the updates and offering your services, you really don't have updates from the field. That's more on an operator type of situation. Let's see if we get some operators from the field to join us today at some point during the call. I want to pass it on to Guillermo. Guillermo, welcome.
Hey, Adrian, thanks for having us today. Thanks for setting this all up. I think it's been a valuable resource for the conversation, especially around what's going on right now. RCX, just a quick intro to what we do. We help vendors like Brenda or other vendors, service providers out there, speed up their triage and intake process. And so you're able to take a look at the problem prior to dispatching that truck. We all know that there's probably a lot of work orders that are coming through, multiple work orders that come through. We help you take a peek at the use a resident's phone to see the issue ahead of time through their phone. No app, no download. It happens in seconds, and then you're able to assess, assess the situation as it stands. Get a sense of, is that leak a drip or is it a gush? Is it a burst? Get a sense of what you can do to try and mitigate the damage before you dispatch that truck, recognizing that there is a very tight supply on people that are able to get out there to solve these problems. So often just taking a look at the problem ahead of time can help you prioritize which trips you need to go to first, and then make sure that you're, if possible, even, see if you can mitigate the damage by shutting off any sort of like any supply that might be happening right then and there, and do it in a way that's really easy for the resident, very easy for the experts, the technicians on the other side of the phone.
Yeah, so you're offering your services to operators and also to supplier partners, right? So that's kind of a unique, a unique approach. Maybe not unique, but maybe other prop tech companies are offering. Whether they're in a maintenance line of products or lane of products or not. So how does that work? Tell me about for the service providers, right? So besides just like giving them a tool to kind of like manage workflows and inspections and all of that,
Sure.
how does that work? Do you offer integration with PMSs for them, so they're kind of like plugging into the PMS platforms, or is it just like a standalone product?
It can operate both ways. We've got integrations into Salesforce Field Service Manager, Salesforce Case Management, integrations into HappyCo, integrations in with a number of the other different scheduling services out there. Working on with AppFolio right now. But again, a lot of our customers, and especially the last couple of weeks, they do standalone for the first 90 days, and then figure out how they want to integrate into their PMS or field service management software. And we and I haven't chatted too much about this, but both the service providers and the property managers suffer from the same problem, where there's lack of information that comes from the resident when they're talking about the problem that needs to be solved. And so, especially right now, we're leaning heavily on our service providers to be able to solve these problems. But conventionally, there are maintenance coordinators, there are site supervisors that are the first people that are first contact, and they also have the same problems right now. Whether they're on call, maybe they're far away from the unit, the property, or maybe they're floating. Either way, it's very difficult right now to get place to place, and there's problems that are happening all over the place. And so, how can we use technology? That thing we ask our customers, or customers ask us, is how can I use technology to solve this faster? I mean, I realize that there's like tons of tech out there that I can use, but I want to get something that I can stand up in less than a day. I want to get something that helps me take a look at the problem, because like the resident is really ill-equipped, unqualified to tell me what's going on. And so as an expert, I can take a look at the problem in a second. I can take the temperature down. I shouldn't use that pun right now, but calm the situation down in terms of what's going on, and then and speak to the resident face to face and solve their problems, most of the time prior to having dispatched that truck, or many times prior to dispatching that truck. And then for the folks, like when there's a disaster, let's get a sense of how many trucks I got to send, how many blowers I got to send. Let's scope all that out, rather than trying to take all the equipment that I might need, take the equipment that you do need to go solve that issue, because we're short on supply for all the things that we need to do to solve these problems right now. So it's the suppliers are both our customer in addition to the property managers. We've had suppliers that have been our customers. Some of our longest customers have been suppliers. I think we've done probably, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60,000 HVAC work orders since we started, all seeking to deflect, all when there's a surge, all these kind of times that you need to kind of like be where you can't be and take a look at the problem so you can mitigate damage and hopefully solve the problem before you have to dispatch that truck.
Hey, I want to come back to you and like dig more into like how your product works, and then how you could assist, and maybe also get some feedback that you have from your customers these days from the field. But before I do that, obviously I want to go back just for a quick minute to Brenda. And Brenda, could you please like share your information, email, phone number, just so it's very practical and people could actually hear it?
Yes. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I was thinking about that afterward. I'm like, yeah, they probably need to know that. So best way to reach me is my cell. I've literally had the same number since 2002, so it's not going anywhere. My cell number, of course, is 919-796-0964. That's North Carolina number. And you can reach me on that number 24/7. I do have an email address. My name is Brenda Walters, as you probably see on the screen. So my email is bwalters and the @ symbol, and it's RS, S as in Sam, Andrews.com. So bwalters@rsandrews.com.
Okay. Thank you, Brenda. And Jonathan, just wanted to turn it over to you. Why don't you introduce yourself, say a few words about yourself, the company you're representing, and maybe a few updates from from your properties in your area.
Sure. Thanks, Adrian. My name is Jonathan Switzer. I'm PM coordinator for Boardwalk REIT. That's preventative maintenance, not property manager. I spend a great deal of my time preparing for the worst, reacting to when it happens, training site associates, leaders, sculpting policy, and otherwise just trying to keep the buildings up intact. Boardwalk, I'm currently operating in Northern Alberta's portfolio, Edmonton, Grand Prairie, Fort Mac, St. Albert. And we represent about 35,000 units across the country. And basically here to lend any advice in these trying times for our southern neighbors.
We have a couple of guests that are trying to get into the studio. Looks like I'm not the only one that is being failed by technology, and maybe it's my fault too here. Who knows? So we're trying to get a couple of our friends on a live stream here. So now, Guillermo, back to you. I want you to share. Do you have some current stories from the field? With stuff that has happened with your clients, maybe some some updates that are meaningful, and actually for the audience out here, what's happening in a field? Because I mean, you guys get like that usage, and you could actually tell even by the usage without talking to people what's happening. So tell me about your app usage the past couple of days.
I mean, it's been obviously, it's been, we're humming right now. Things are going it's pretty busy with all of our customers. We had some onboarding last week and through the weekend to get people up and running and equipped to be able to handle the problem. So, to the problem that we solve, I mean, like what we're seeing right now is that there's a lot of people that are anxious about the situation. There's power outages. There's all those things that are happening. There's burst pipe, everything from DFW all the way to Carolinas. We're seeing, and Boston's got like 20 inches of snow. Like it's happening everywhere. I'd say the most common thing that we're seeing is really HVAC and power related. So things that people are trying to deal with are as the response to all of those concerns, right? So service request comes in, maybe a resident enters it more than a couple of times, maybe it goes to the site super and it gets routed to someone like Brenda, and then Brenda's seeking to solve that problem. Everything goes through and looks the same. Everything is no heat. Everything is an emergency. And how do you begin to figure out what to go to, right? Because like we all know that while everything is sorted as no heat and emergency, it's really not. There is a prioritization to those different sort of situations. And in many cases, something that is fairly basic could be solved. For example, let's imagine a unit that has no heat concern. And they've been running their furnace, 24 hours a day, trying to compete with the cold outside. And that furnace is now high temped out, right? Well, that high temp could be more related to just the filter being dirty. Maybe they've got short-haired animals, and that filter's dirty, and that filter high temps out the furnace. Furnace won't turn on anymore. But now that's an emergency. In reality, it's just a dirty filter. Now there are other situations where the intake is blocked, or maybe the furnace is completely shut down. All those are categorically different emergencies because they have a higher lead time to solve. So what our customers do is they able to take a look at the problem, spend 2 minutes with the resident and diagnosing the issue before they dispatch that truck. Because if it is a filter problem, it could be a case that can get delegated down to the site super to bring a new filter up to that resident, change the filter, cycle the furnace, and you're back in business, versus having to send a heating contractor out to solve that problem. Because a heating contractor's got to get on the road. They're going to prioritize that no heat over other critical no heats where maybe the heat exchanger is cracked or something severe has happened within that particular unit. And that prioritization, being able to do that in about 2 minutes can save hours and hours and hours of downtime in the grand scheme of things. So we're seeing a lot of that. We're seeing a lot of plumbing related issues that come from, not being able to triage or diagnose. And those plumbing issues, again, are related to how you're being able to address the initial problem of the heat. And so plumbing related issues, if there is a shutoff valve, if there is a crap corner, if there is a dishwasher that's frozen up, how do you begin to kind of to stop the problem from being worse, and then direct the resident immediately how to kind of put some towels down, what's practical in terms of solving or preventing the problem from being worse, so they can kind of, go about living their lives. And that kind of advice and guidance face to face just goes a long way with lowering the anxiety in the residents and keeps tickets out of the queue. So that the most important tickets end up in the queue, not the attic rain ticket that Melvin knows so well from a roofing perspective.
Since you're mentioning Melvin out there, I want to welcome our friend from the roofing industry, good friend and content creator, and the best roofer out there, Melvin. Welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, let's get you in. What's hot in Iowa, and maybe other areas that your company is servicing.
Yeah, so Melvin here, your roofing guy, right? So when we grab like this instance, right, and I'm like totally focused in roofing, right, when it comes to weather and problems, and even though we have the weather in Iowa that's pretty common, like to have like these issues with the winter, everybody, I think, right, most of the property managers that have a plan in place, they have prepared this, throughout the years, every winter, they do that preparation that we have it to get problems minimized, right? So the weather sometimes, Mother Nature strikes and Mother Nature strikes, right? But so when you go below, 30s and 15s, and that margin is like it's a little, even if you do all the preparation that we can, it sometimes it's not enough, right? So and you ended up like doing preventive maintenance that's not enough for the capex or for the budget or for whatnot, you know what I mean? And then you get into the points that you pay more for the tickets that were not, like budget, So, and when we're talking about roofing and in all the situations with the building envelope, right? We're talking about roofing and siding and not, this is not, in many terms, it's like a blind side for the operation, for the property managers or for the investors, right? They're not prepared well enough for that damage to happen, right? So, I remember like Guillermo talk about the attic rings, right? The attic fans, and and what the condensation, right? So it's a fine line, in between when you have a problem and I imagine like a property manager that have like, I don't know, 100 units, right? Or apartment that had 100 units and all the attic fans have problem and condensation. That's a huge problem. That's not just one residential, right? So you get multiple problems throughout the units, and so the ventilation of that building needs to be on top of it, So, and so you're talking about the entire envelope, right? The entire building. So to maintain, to have this all in tiptoe, the property manager should have not just one roofer, right? But multiple vendors in roofing prepared for that. Right? Because if you have like, I don't know how many properties you have in your portfolio as an asset manager, so you're going to need a lot more roofers than just one roof. You know what I mean? That's my opinion when it comes down to check ice dams, checked out pool attics, ventilation, all that stuff that happens with attic fans. You know what I mean? So that's one thing, right? So, but when you have water entering the building and it's like, minus 30 degrees outside to get a roofer goes on the top. But you know what I mean? You're talking about the preventive maintenance, right? And then you're talking about what the maintenance that occurs, right, at minus 30 degrees. Then you need a roofer to go on top of that roof. You're going to have a lot of roofers that we're not going to go to that roof, for safety reasons, and that remedy becomes a lot more cost than if you have your preventive maintenance in place, right? If you understand how your building and your situations work before the storm happened, So, and we're talking about like how much money it's to do preventive maintenance on the building, right? And comparing like money, right, on a maintenance that should be occur like every quarter or maybe every 6 months, right? So that your vents are all intact. When you have a storm like that happen, you shouldn't be too worried about what to prevent in some small problem. That's the second thing. You know what I mean? And then as a resource vendor, right? As a roofer, right? I got a lot of calls from property managers in the last minute. Yesterday I was sitting with the property manager and they were talking about some leak issues, and then I told them, hey, we can't get these fixed in 2 weeks from now. They asked me like, yeah, this is not going to do it. We need it now. I was like, yeah, but I'm in our schedule. This is also feasible, right? If I had a call from you, but what she said to me was funny and not funny at the same time when you think about the envelope and maintenance, right? She said, like, Melvin, we need faster and cheaper. Yeah. and then in the back of my head, I was like, man, you have this damage on the building or on the apartment for 3 months. Faster is not applicable anymore, and cheap, it's not. But they needed the next day, and I was like, you ended up fixing it for free. I fix it for free. I tarp it for free, right? But it's hard to do.
Are we losing Melvin out there, or is just me?
No, we lost Melvin.
It's okay. We're gonna bring. Okay, we're gonna. Okay, he's back.
Yeah, I think it cut up. So, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
So it's hard to do, cheap and fast when it's, that time doesn't apply anymore and the price doesn't apply with the time even, you know what I mean? So, and that's a problem that as a vendor, I have it a lot. We have it a lot, and I think I take ownership that's my job to be, more affecting me or my property managers in Iowa. When a storm that happens, I'm calling them already. Hey, let's get in your roof before the storm next week. You know what I mean? So that way, yeah, I don't know if every vendor it's like that, but that's me, right? I want to help more, I want to get more cost-effective solutions, you know what I mean? So then the property managers is not in a situation that the budget's all out of the door in the first quarter, maybe in the second quarter, in that case first, you know what I mean? That's my 2 cents.
Melvin, this is very valuable, brother. I'm gonna ask you to hold on. We only have like 4 spots in the studio. I'm gonna drop you just don't leave, right? Because I'm gonna come back to you. I want to I want to go ahead and bring Bentley right now, but we'll be back to you, right? So just don't leave because we're gonna come back. I have several other questions for you. Okay. Want to welcome Bentley right now. Welcome to the show, Bentley.
Hello, everybody. You hear me okay?
I can. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Yeah. So welcome to the live. Tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your company, and how is your company handling this current situation?
Yeah, so my name is Bentley Peabody. I'm Vice President of Maintenance and Construction for Fairgrove Property Management. We're a fee manager located in Southern California. So good segue there. Southern California, it's sunny and warm today. So it's like we struggle with different things than weather most of the time. We have a little bit of heavy rain every now and again that throws us through a loop. But generally speaking, the storms and the ice is not something that we have to deal with. So I know a lot of you guys are out there working hard. Right? Make sure you stay safe when you're out there.
Yeah. Thank you. Jonathan, back to you, sir. Tell us a little bit what are you seeing and hearing from the field these days?
Well, up here, despite our many preparations, we're still running into a lot of the problems that are taking people by surprise down in the States. We'll have, compressor failures on the dry sprinkler systems in parkades, and then suddenly we've got freezing parkade lines and having to deal with that situation. Or in other situations, we'll have snow drifting into the air intake for a building, and suddenly it's getting evacuated by the fire department for carbon monoxide. As you said, it's just another day up here in Canada for that stuff, but I can see a lot of our neighbors south kind of struggling with the same issues right now without any of the kind of infrastructure to support it. Like, we have these issues happen here, but we've got our contractors, and when our contractors are not available, we have our in-house guys that we can pull in on call, and it all seems fairly routine.
Would you say in your current situation, maybe more preparation would have helped, or is just like too much volume? No matter how much you prepare, like you can't really handle it all at one time.
Well, preparation is always the bane of folly, but there's only so much preparing you can do. For example, we could not have predicted that the compressor would have failed. Everything checked out on the annuals. The compressor was checked out. The sprinkler lines were checked out. But they've been in there many years, and a bit of undetected corrosion beneath the seal gave way, and suddenly we had a flooded parkade. We got lucky because the weather had changed, but it doesn't always go that way. We've had more than a few parkade lines freeze up with a great deal of work that, again, you may not be able to predict that a heater is going to fail, and regardless of how many inspections. That said,
yep,
the inspections are so critical to making sure that the things that can be detected are caught, and if we calculated how much we saved based on that, we'd look like rock stars.
I'm gonna try something different right now. I'm gonna pull myself from the stage, remove from the stage. I'm gonna bring Melvin in. He had a lot of great information, so I'll let the three of you ask him questions, and then once that part is done, I'll just have one of you on hold. I'll come back to the stage because I have my own questions for Melvin. I think he touched on a lot of great items, other points.
Hey, Adrian, I've got to drop, so why don't you pass Melvin my spot? I've got to jump to the call right now.
Okay, all right, that'll work too. You got it. Take care.
Okay, see you, bud.
Melvin, welcome back, sir. You're muted.
No, I don't think I am. Thank you.
You're good now. You're good now. You were. Just virtually. I mean, you're not a muted person.
No, definitely not.
We know. We all know that by now. So, Melvin, I want to ask you. Right, there were some great conversations and tips that you gave. But let's just say that we're property managers right now. Regardless of what we did or we didn't do, we have a situation, right? We have leaks at the top floor, the units. And of course, we kind of figure out it's not going to be by elimination. It's not going to be, if it's not plumbing or a fire suppression system that's leaking, the only thing left is going to be the roof, right? If you're a top floor unit. So walk us through what are some next steps, right? What do we do? I mean, back in a number of years ago, I will say I've seen a lot of let's just wait for the rain or the snow to melt. The ceiling is gonna dry and we're gonna spray some kills and we'll repaint it. I've seen that, quite a bit, and it's just unfortunate, but it's a reality that it does happen. So, walk us through.
Yeah,
Some,
I'm gonna go back what Jonathan said, right? Even if you have all your checks, all your preventive maintenance done, right? Correct, right? Mother Nature is so unpredictable, and this happened a lot in roofing, right? So I mean, I don't know. I preach that a lot, and a lot of people hear my videos, like that. You as a property manager or asset manager, even in commercial property, residential property, it depends what your portfolio is. You should have at least 2 inspections done a year, right? So that's the minimum that you should have with your roofing, right? So that even if it fails, so you had done the inspection, that you can go back and do some repairs, put that in your budget and whatnot, right? But so when you don't do the inspection, right? And I seen that a lot when you, as a property manager, right? So they buy and acquire a different asset for their portfolio, and they don't check their roof, right? And you don't know what kind of asset that you get in your portfolio, right? So I highly recommend that you do that, 2 inspections, and the inspections also, like, it's at the end of the fall, right? So the leaves are all out, so you can clean your gutters, you can do all the preventive maintenance on your gutters line. That way you don't have anything clogged on it, right? And then you're talking about buildings. You could be like 2-story building, 3-story building, 4-story building, doesn't matter, right? The leaves are gonna fall, they're gonna clog the gutters, you're gonna have problems if you don't do it, right? And then you have like flat roofing, right? So that you can have your gutters clogged to your scupper, right? Your drainage, that sometimes they design that the drains go inside the building anyways. So that should be something that your preventive maintenance, or even not preventing, but schedule maintenance, should take care of that every two times a year, right? So, but the leaks, right? So we have the normal wear and tear, right? So, and then I think this is something that I also say, coming from the manufacturing industry, right? I had a lot of experience with the manufacturer. I think they used to build products that they were better, back in the day, right? So they will last better, right? The warranties were designed also accordingly to the shingle manufacturer. It was like 30, 40, 50 years, right? And then now I personally don't think that shingle is going to last 25 years, right? So, and that has to do with the quality of the material. So then, as schedule maintenance, then you should do a little bit more. And I don't think that's just in shingles. It's in plumbing, right? It's the copper. The copper has more, metals than the copper itself. It bursts more than, 1980s. We didn't have a lot of copper bursting in the middle of the night, right? Now we have more coppers that burst in the night. And then what the plumbing people did, they use PAX line, right? So, but when we have a leak on the middle of the roof, even though it's not a roof leak, it's a copper plumbing that burst, the roofers get the call, right? Because they think it's a roof leak, you know what I mean? And then I seen a lot. I thought about getting a plumbing license just because I'm a roofer, but I seen a lot of plumbing leaks, and then it has nothing to do with the roof, but the diagnosis of problems, finding the problem, that's what costs property managers the money, right? So when you have a plumbing stack burst in the middle on the top of your roof, even though it's a top unit, but it's a plumbing and not a roofing, the roofer gets there, digging for, I don't know, an hour until you find the problem. Now the roofer get out of there with the reports that like, hey, maintenance director, this is what you have, this is the pictures, this is the video. Now you got to call your plumber, right? So the whole back end problems, right? And I don't know, in my opinion, right? So should you check your attic twice a year? Maybe you should, when you have a building envelope that big, you know what I mean? And if you have multiple buildings, you know what I mean? Like yesterday I came out of like a 18 building inspection. I checked one attic, but that's 18 building with that multifamily. That's a lot of inspections that you got to do, to make sure that preventing, so that schedule maintenance is done right, and that's a lot on the director of maintenance. That's a lot on the property manager, and I think the roofers, they should be like calling more the property managers to help out. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? And
Hey, Melvin.
Yes.
Melvin, you got some great tips on preventative maintenance and inspections. I think those are great. So let's say you're in the middle of winter, which is not a great time to be doing all your preventative maintenance, but let's say you have a leak, right? So what are some ways to stay safe when you're up there? You're on a roof, it's wet, it's icy, it's covered in snow, it's windy, it's cold.
Yeah. So we wait for example, in Iowa today, we have a day that's a sunny, right? So we wait for the sunny day to melt a little bit that snow out of the roof, right? So then we tarp it, and usually we use a synthetic felt to tarp it if you don't have a proper tarping. And I think those are great because that's what's going underneath of the shingles anyways, right? And so you do what I call that's a repair, emergency repair. It's something that you do really, really fast, you know what I mean? And then you can get to get better conditions to do a repair that's properly done. That's answer your question. It is straightforward, right? Because I can, going hours and hours talking about, but that's pretty much what we can do, right? Warms up a little bit. You can get 1 or 2 guys, right? Depends on the, how big it is, tarp that leak, you got to find the leak. And sometimes it's hard to find the leak on the winter, because you get that fume of like snow on the top of the roof. It's easier to find on the attic because you can see it through the attic. You can see the nails, the water leaking through the nails sometimes, you know what I mean? So it's easier going to attic, right? But when the building, it's bigger, right? It's a multifamily building, right? That you have to walk, and then they have those firewalls. Then you have to go to each of those steps, right, to go inside the building. It takes a little longer than finding a leak on a residential attic, right? So, but yeah, my advice is like, you waiting for the day that's like the most accordingly day, right? And sometimes you got to damage the drywall. You got to open the drywall, right? Because they don't have access, right? So you're just adding costs, right? Open the drywall, cut it small that you can pick ahead. So if you can get in, right? Put a bucket. So that's the remedy, right? And then if you have an attic entrance, right? So then you can go to that attic entrance, find you on the roof, right? And tarp that just as an emergency. That will be the best option, I hope that answered the question, Bentley.
Yeah, Melvin, that's great, right? So remove your wet material, find your leak from inside the building so you're not crawling around on an icy or wet or snowy roof, and then wait till and contain the water and wait till a time when it's appropriate to tarp it. I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, and then you have to contain the water, but at the same time, it's going to be a bucket, right? So now I'm thinking a perspective of the roofer, right? Now I'm thinking a perspective of the director of maintenance that has to report to the property manager. Then the customer is complaining about, hey, I'm going to have a bucket right here for 3 months. That is a problem, right? So like, and I can see that problem, right? I'm not only thinking about roofing, but that's the whole condition of the winter, right? And that's why you have to get into the most warm day, right? And I mean, I'm thinking about Jonathan. He said it's in Canada. It's not like Canada, and today we get a little 10 degrees instead of -30, and sunny. That's the day. That's the thing that's why as a property manager, you have to have your vendors like ready for you, right? Instead of have just one good roofer, the job is having 3, great roofers. So that way, and they all have the vendor packages, done proper. So that if I cannot get that in that day, that's the only day that we have, right? I'm thinking as a team, right? With the property maintenance guy, with the director, with the property manager, with the customer, right? I think like that. And I think we need more roofers thinking like that as a team, not just, I'm a vendor for this guy, But you have one day and I can't get there, then the other vendor can get there. You know what I mean? So that's something that it's hard. It's hard in everybody. You know what I mean? So, but that's my suggestion.
I know. Thank you, Marvin. By the way, I know that Bentley has some comments on safety that he wants to share. So Bentley.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So I think one of the biggest challenges we face, I think most of us are going to think about the building safety. Most of us are going to think about our resident safety when we're out there. I think we might forget to think about our own safety, right? When you're in the thick of it, there's a storm going on, there's a leak coming down from the roof, the resident's upset, the property manager's upset, right? So what are some of the things that we can think about as a team to make sure that we're not putting ourselves at undue risk, right? Because slips and falls is one of the, if not the largest wintertime injury is just from slipping, right? Whether it's on ice or it's on water or if it's on snow. And taking a little extra caution to slow down, taking a little extra caution to put in your signs, right? Especially when you're in elevated areas, right? So if you can defer the ladder work, defer it. If you can stay off the walkways, stay off the roofs if you can. Sometimes the slips happen in kind of unexpected areas. Jonathan, you're showing me something there. What you got there?
That's the ice cleat. I just pulled off my boot.
Yeah. Get that right PPE, right? Use the tools that will help you stay safe. Put the caution signs in. Maybe it's 10 feet inside the mailroom door, and it's like you think it's right at the entrance. They're going to be thinking about it, but maybe they're not, right? So that a little bit of prevention goes a long ways there, and the right tools make a big difference. That footwear piece is so important, right? But just taking the extra time to think and stop and slow down and make sure that you're doing it safely. There's a lot going on, and it's hard to do that sometimes when you're focused on getting the task finished. But Jonathan or Melvin, what are safety tips? You guys work out in the snow and the ice every year. What are some tips you have for these wintertime safety practices that have worked for you?
Oh, from our end, I mean, we've got a company policy on cleats, and I'm always running around. Hey, where's your cleats? Where's your cleats? Put your cleats on. Oh, I forgot them today. And then the next day it's like, I noticed you filled out a form for when you biffed it. Where were your cleats? It's just one of those things that we kind of drill into everybody. Well, we have a fantastic landscaping program. Everybody's filling out their logs and taking pictures of their sidewalks. I think they're using Yeti to keep that all documented. And that's great, but landscapers are not all powerful. They can't stop ice everywhere. And it's one of those things where you have to take some personal accountability to make sure that you're safe. Those cleats really come in handy. Everybody here is kind of well versed in what happens if you don't have snow tires on, but that isn't always a thing down where we're having all these issues. So it's one of those things. On the last meeting, I had mentioned getting out and checking out your air intakes, and Guillermo rightly pointed out that it's not maybe so easy to just hop in your car and start visiting your sites. If the road conditions are bad and you're running summer tires, you're probably going to cause more problems than you're helping. So just make sure that you're in fact prepared for the cold. If you're spending a lot of time out in the cold, counterintuitively, you're going to dehydrate. You're going to get dried out, and it becomes a real problem after 8-12 hours. And then you realize, oh, I haven't had anything to drink or eat, or now we're having problems. So we kind of have to be cognizant of those things and make sure that we're taking care of ourselves while we're out there. What about you, Melvin? Nobody spends more time out in the cold than roofers.
Yeah, it's funny because I have a cougar paws with this, like a boots that's made for non-slippery, you know what I mean, on the roofs, right? Majority of the roofs that I really go to are steep slope, right? Are shingles, right? So they are pitched, right? Sometimes I have the roofs that we can get in, and the entrance, it's easy entrance, and it's flat, and then you have the mansards, the steep slope outside, but yeah, my cougar paws is my best friends, man. I'm not, that's a reason why they call cougar paws, right? Because they attach to the shingles, and you have foams. And I mean, the OSHA 10, OSHA 30, it's fundamental. I think every roofer should take courses at OSHA, you know what I mean? Like in the US, I don't know if Canadian, they have the OSHA standards like the way they do in the US, right? But in the US, I think that you should follow, and then sometimes you follow, and sometimes the accidents still happen, right? So I have harness. It depends above the pitch, and by OSHA standard, if it's 6 feet out of the ground, you should be wearing your harness. Should attach your ladder, and even that, with all that, stuff happens. All right. So the wind blows different. I'm very cautious about safety, because for me, you got to get back to your home in the next day or the day, you know what I mean? Like for me, I don't trying to reach. If it's out of my reach, it's out of my reach. You know what I mean? Like it's the next day job, so it's what you do every day, right? So, and I seen guys, it's just a little inch that I can reach. That doesn't sound good when you don't have, like the grasp on your, and then it's snowing or windy, or the rain after the snow, you know what I mean? That roof becomes really slippery. It's just not. It's a blink of an eye, and then you sleep. And even if all the precautions you're doing, stuff can happen too. You know what I mean? So I put sponges. We use the pitch hoppers too, which is a little tool that you can put it like every slope that you go, and the way I walk in the roof, I walk through the valleys, and the ridges. And sometimes the roofers make fun, they even make fun of me on the roof. Oh man, it's like, I don't care. I can be the whole conversation to be fun. I never, I hope I will never have an accident, you know what I mean, that we cannot, account for, you know what I mean? Like, so, because safety, it's safety. It's not, people say it's the first thing, it's the only thing, getting back at home and safe, and your team too, right? When you're 3 stories up, and then you have 1 or 2 guys with you doing the repair. It's fundamental for the families, it's fundamental for everybody, so.
Thank you, Melvin. And gentlemen, as we approach the top of the hour, I just wanted to say thank you all for showing up, for making this very educational, right? Very meaningful for those that watched. We had a pretty good audience for something that we tried to do overnight, right? The platforms aren't necessarily like sharing this type of event generously, so we had to use our own resources. I want to give a shout out to all of our multifamily leadership council members that show up, that were in the comments, that were watching us live, and obviously to all of you that show up on the stage and share stuff. I wanted to conclude our meeting, and just before I do that, I wanted to say that I'm learning technology, is not always, super friendly like we want it to be. And also like bringing people on stage, removing them from stage. Maybe it wasn't the perfect, the ideal experience for everyone. We're just trying to make it better. And, we know that you got to start from somewhere. So thank you all for being patient. Thank you all for being present. It's incredibly, it's very, humbling that, you just came to support this group, and also to share some great information. Hopefully you learn some great info from the call that we had from our guests. I want to go around the table and now, just give a final word to our guests. Jonathan, I'm going to start with you.
One thing that I didn't think of in our last meeting, that, our infrastructure here is designed for cold. In a lot of places it isn't. And it kind of got me thinking back to the farm when we know it was going to get really cold. We'd open the taps a little bit, which in this day and age of conservation, that seems like heresy. But if you're not in a typically cold climate and it's getting really cold out there, open up the taps, keep them dripping a little bit to stop them from freezing. It's worth it. Please just open your taps a little bit until it warms up.
Thank you, Jonathan. Bentley?
Maybe just a really good follow-up on that. That is a great tip, Jonathan. But if it's too late and the hose bib is already frozen, right, it may have burst, but it may not be leaking until after it thaws. So just when the cold snap ends, just maybe pay a little extra attention for a day or so afterwards to see what may show up after.
Thank you. Melvin?
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback with what Johnson said about dripping. Maybe you're gonna spend $3 grand more. But they say in the U.S. that moving water doesn't get like frozen. You know what I mean? If it's moving, you know what I mean. At least you moving. You might be paying 3,000 in the bill, but something that bursts, you might be paying 30,000. The difference is like, you know what I mean. It's definitely like a lot cheaper, than remedy a problem. You know what I mean? In the middle of the winter, and all the causes that how much gallons of water goes inside of the house if a leak is burst. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a plumber, but I bet it's a lot.
Once again, thank you to our panelists. And I'm going to ask you, once we go off the live, right, once we stop the live, to stay for a couple more minutes to just kind of like wrap up offline. And for all of you that watched us today, thank you for your support. I hope you found this helpful. If you have various other like topics that we should be like bringing on a live event, I'd love to hear from you. And I hope you have a safe rest of your day and week out there. There's a lot of contacts, great contacts in the comments that I saw on LinkedIn. Please reach out to them if you need any type of assistance in areas that they cover. And I hope this was helpful for everyone. Take care. Have an amazing rest of your day.